Cosmetic family.
Hey, thanks for joining us on the Cosmetic Podcast.
Cosmetic means being a person or thing that gives rise to a phenomenon that is dynamic or energizing.
We're tackling topics and telling the truth.
I'm Rodrigo Ross.
I'm Keith Benson.
So today our topic is I am what I am, and I am so excited. We are featuring two of the best, the most awesome, the most fabulous CEOs in this country. We have Mr. Kevin Bolden, President and CEO of the YMCA of Greater Pittsburg, and none other than Ernest Lamour, the Chief Executive Officer of the Ridgewood YMCA, New Jersey. Welcome, fam.
Hey.
Yes.
So look, let me jump in here. So I'm gonna start off. So like Kevin is my almost favorite supervisor. And so somebody made the mistake of not hiring the brother. He was gonna be my supervisor. I was looking forward to working with him, man. We were in sync. We had some plans, and it's like, and then that brother took off and became supervisor.
Well, he did the right thing. Good job, Kevin. Good job.
It was close. It was close.
Almost supervisor. Is that Keith? Are you still bitter? Is that a thing though?
We good now. It's been some years, in between. The brother, now it was their mistake because he's definitely, as you can see, he's going on to do some great things.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Well, today we want to talk to you guys about your amazing ability to navigate, right, and stand up and make whole and usher and shepherd your YMCAs through unprecedented times, but also doing that being a Black man, right? Like you can't detach one from the other. And so we just love to kind of spend today chopping it up, talking about that dynamic and hearing from you in those kind of ways. So how are you navigating this space lately? Like the world, some days.
So, Brother Ernie, would you like to get it started?
You're Jay-Z, man. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
He had to get that in.
Right. He had to get that in, courtesy of Mr. Duvall. First of all, it's good to spend some time with you all. Good to see my friend Ernie on the screen as well. One of these days, we'll all see each other face to face, and those will be good days. For me, how am I doing? Hey, this has been hard. It's been hard on everybody. It's, I think when you go through what we've all been through, whether you're big Y, small Y, whether you're, north, south, east, or west, there's no easy way to navigate this whole thing. We just had a meeting earlier today with some of the other CEOs in this part of the state, and we were all face to face, and we didn't know how to act. People were like, hey, hi, hey, and it was really awkward, but it was so good seeing faces and all of that. But personally, I'm navigating. It's been tough. It's been tough for our Y. We're not one of those Ys that's sitting on a ton of money. So it's been tough as we've had to navigate this and make some difficult decisions about who can be here and who can't. But it's the type of thing that you have to do to make sure that your organization can continue to have another day. And in the middle of it, you just try to do what you can to take care of yourself mentally, physically, spiritually. I'm losing weight trying to get, cut up like Ernie. And, all right.
Aren't we all?
I got a couple.
Don't lie now. Don't lie.
So how about you, Mr. Lamour? How are you doing these days? How are you handling it all?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. Look, there's a lesson learned in all of this for me. At the start of the pandemic, it was extremely rough. Personally, I lost my father to COVID, back in May of last year, early on. And that was tough. And then we're dealing with all of this. I had to lay off, just like Kevin talked about, many of our staff, right? So 95% of our employees were furloughed, didn't know what life was going to look like beyond the pandemic. And at the same time, we're preparing for when we do reopen and what that might look like. And so it was stressful. But I learned a great deal throughout this entire process for me. I won't go into all the details, but I'll tell you what, the biggest thing I learned is that there's certain things you just can't, manage, and don't stress the stuff that you really can't deal with. The first few months, I did not sleep well. You're talking 2-3 hours a night at best. Just thinking about, staff and people you've grown to love and connect with over the years. And now all of a sudden you're having to make calls and tell them that, you don't know when and if they'll have a job, right? And so that was tough. But, we as an organization, we did the right thing. We made some tough decisions. And, we looked at how are we going to serve community better. That was the thing that just kept us going. We know there was a community that needed us. How are we going to do that and do it better than we had been doing prior to the pandemic? And, understanding we had small markets to begin with and operate within that time frame, that budget frame. And, we did what we had to do. But, we are okay in an okay place now. And that's why I say I'm in an okay place too. Family is great. That's the biggest thing, for me. I looked at this as, all right, the health of my family, are we good? Are we still, able to do the things that we have to do? Health is wealth during this time. And I'm happy with the things that we had to do, but I'm okay. I'm all right.
Yeah. So we talked about the pandemic a little bit. So you're African-American. You're a CEO, you're leading organizations in the midst of the pandemic. Then you have all the social justice things that come into play. Can you guys just kind of walk through how you handle that with your staff and even just some of your personal feelings going through that?
Yeah.
It's been a really difficult time to try to navigate through all of that now. And I think we all have different dynamics that we play with based upon where we are in our career, in our life, in our communities also. For me, this was a bit of a challenge going through this because Western Pennsylvania, while everybody looked at Western Pennsylvania over the course of the election and said, hey, Western Pennsylvania, especially Allegheny County, where I am, is such an important piece for Biden being elected, it doesn't mean that Western Pennsylvania is this grand place of kind of racial utopia. It's just the opposite. Western Pennsylvania and Allegheny County is a really divided city in a divided area. W. Kamau Bell, when he came out with the what was his show, the Divided States of America.
Yeah.
When he came out last season, his first show was on Pittsburg, and he called Pittsburgh the most racially divided city in the country. So trying to navigate all of the craziness that was playing out in the wake of George Floyd's murder, for me, I felt it was really challenging. Yes, I have my feelings on the wrongdoing of what had happened, on Black men getting stereotyped, Black men being targeted. Yeah, I feel that every day. But I also know I'm in a community where probably half the people don't feel that. So, and I've got a YMCA that needs to exist in all of those different communities. Right. So trying to position our why and the role that we should take or not take in this one was something that for me was really difficult. We had staff members who were definitely pushing and saying, Kevin, we need to put out a statement. We need to do this and we need to do that. But just as we heard in the last episode or one of the last episodes about Hail to the Chief, when Kevin was talking about it, it's hard. At least for me, I don't feel that making a statement is worth making a statement if you cannot talk about what the action that you're going to make behind the statement. Right. And our why was one where we were still just trying to figure out how we were going to survive. Especially in those early weeks of the pandemic. So we did not come out and make a bold statement about what we saw going wrong. What I told our staff was that we were going to focus internally first to make sure our organization was strong and that we were having the conversations internally about what made people uncomfortable and about what made people angry. And so we were going to have those conversations as a staff team and at least try to air out our concerns internally before we wanted to go out and start talking about what we think the why should do. that is something that I still look back on and say, was it the right move? Ultimately, when the next thing happens, will we come out and make some statement on that? I think we'll probably be a little bit better positioned to do so, but it's because we've gone through some of the kind of inner lookings that what we've gone through now over the course of the last 8 to 10 months. But it's also hard, just personally trying to figure out what do you do, because I got an 8-year-old daughter at home, and she's asking it, and it gets to the point where I can't even watch the news with her, where she's asking me, Daddy, is it okay for you to be out there? That's all hard. I think we hear so much about people having conversations with their sons about being safe, but for me, it's the opposite about my daughter worried about if I'm safe. So it's a mess that we're all still trying to navigate through.
I can definitely relate to a lot of what Kevin is saying too. Like him, I have an 8-year-old daughter who too was nervous about me being out. And my wife and my daughter, their last words before I leave the house every day is, please be careful. Right. And that's just the reality of the situation. Because I've been through things before, like many Black men in America have been pulled over by police. Sometimes I feel okay, and sometimes I just don't feel safe at all, and not knowing where this is going to go. And so, when this all went down back in May of last year, I think I'm fortunate to have landed in a position here, CEO of a YMCA, that wanted to see great change, not only in community and in the organization, but throughout the entire country, and understood what was happening. I'm fortunate where there's a board of directors that were in place, who hired their first Black CEO in 120 years of ROI being in existence, right? And they understood the true value of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and wanted to talk about that on the board level, right? And wanting to say, hey, listen, when I first got here, I'll never forget this. One of our board members who led the charge had hired me. He said, Ernie, we're a bunch of old white men and we need to change that. And that was like, oh, okay, you didn't just hire me as the Black CEO. You really hired me to bring about great change. You know what I'm about. And this was great. And we started doing that, started bringing on the right people onto our board. And so that conversation started early on back in January of 2017 for me when I got here. And so when the death of George Floyd occurred, it was some of those board members actually calling me saying, what are we going to do? Right. I was actually struggling internally watching this on the television screen and seeing, riots and rallies and things of that nature taking place throughout our entire country. And to have board members who don't look like me call me and say, hey, Ernie, what are we going to do? We are a nonprofit organization. We say we stand for all. The Y's got a moral obligation to do something here, right? And so that was it for me, because my struggle internally also was, I'm being honest, realizing that, okay, I am the Black man here, right? Majority of my board members are white. I live in a community that 86% are Caucasian, right? 12% are Asian, right? And there's less than 2% Black people that live in this community. And so that aspect of it for me was like, wow, I want to put a statement out. Some of my staff members reached out and said, okay, what are we going to say? What are we going to do? We talked about this. And it was beautiful to see how the community rallied around this too. We hosted a rally here at RY. The chief of police, the commissioner of Bergen County. We had the state GA here. And it was over 2,000 people here at RY. We talked about the issues and we knew what this was going to lead to afterwards. So Kevin talked about, you put out a statement, but what are you going to do afterwards, right? And that was extremely important. We talked about that in advance. What are we going to do moving forward following this rally here at RY? So we started a series called Y Talks. And it's essentially just bringing community together, having the conversations and dialogue around systemic racism that exists in all sectors of our communities, right? And how can we educate our community around that and think about ways we can play a role in making changes happen within policy changes. And so it was a beautiful thing to see. And this Y Talk series is still going on. This was not a one-time deal and we're done, right? Because that happens a lot. This is led by volunteers, right? Obviously, as a CEO, I am highly engaged, but these are volunteers that are helping to lead this. And we're having this dialogue, and it's great to see where we've stepped up as an organization where, again, as the Black CEO, I was nervous about, okay, do I step out and say something? And I'll tell you another thing. When we put out a statement, and I had some members, right, in our community, members of our Y, I was like, hey, this seems like a political stance. I thought the Y was not about politics. I don't feel comfortable being involved in the Y. And so I'm going to cancel my membership. My board chair, I forwarded that email to him and I didn't say anything. I wanted to see his response. And he came back, he said, Ernie, you know what? We're doing the right thing. This is a moral obligation that our Y is really fighting here. And so guess what? If we have members that don't want to be a part of our Y, those aren't members we wanted to begin with. And so let's continue to do this work and build on what we're doing. Obviously, you've always told us, as a Y, we're not taking a political stance, and this is not a political stance. Just like if this was an issue affecting other segments of our population, we should be talking about that. And from that point on, it was, gloves are off. It's like, let's go.
Open the door now. Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah,
let's go. And and even with all the hate crimes that have occurred in the Asian Pacific Islanders communities, we've stepped up and we've gotten involved with that. We put messaging out about that, and we're working with that community to see how the Y can better help them as well, right? We see us as a bigger part of this community, and that's great.
I love it. I love data, and I was trying to research to prepare for this conversation. And so the U.S. National Library of Medicine says that the life expectancy and the mortality rates for Black men is about 71.8 years. For white men, it's 76.3 years. And this was pre-COVID. And scientists and doctors suspect that number is going to go down for Black men because of stress-related health issues that are now going to become prevalent because of this dual pandemic that we're in. And so I wanted to know, what is the way that you guys are relieving stress to take care of your health that we probably wouldn't think you was? Like me, I'm getting back to my roll bounce roots. Like I'm roller skating now, right? Like I'm gonna send y'all a video. I'm cool with it. I'm nice with it.
Gotta see that.
You're gonna be so jealous. But what are some of the things that you guys do to kind of relieve stress? Because we know stress is absolutely a detriment to Black men's overall.
Let me give y'all a moment to think about that while I chime in on this comment, because I'm just learning about these roller skates. So please.
This is why I don't tell you stuff. Right here is why I don't tell you stuff.
Boy, I just needed to interject that right there. So go ahead, Brother Kevin. You want to take that one on?
Yeah. Well, I'm not on roller skates. I tell you that. When I was working in Miami, I tried rollerblading, and when you 6'4", 6'5", 200, that's a long way to fall with a lot of momentum. And I fell one time on rollerblades, on those rollerblades. That's all it took. It's the hardest time I've ever fallen in my life. And it's just never going to happen again like that. I'm never going to let that happen again. So,
got to do the 4 wheels. I'm old school.
Right. Yeah, and my foot's too big. That's just too much. It's just it don't work. It's not a pretty thing. So
we know what you're not getting for Christmas.
I know exactly right. But I talked at the beginning of this about just taking care of spiritual, mental, physical. What I found myself towards the end of last year, I was struggling. You know, struggling with all the decisions that had to be made, struggling with the weight of all those decisions, the frequency of all those decisions. And when you get to the point that the only thing that you're doing is having to make lots of decisions that are impacting people negatively, that starts to weigh on you. You know, we've talked about, or you all have talked about this in other calls about, you know, how it's a pretty lonely job because you're trying to figure out, well, who do you talk to? And it's a limited number of people that you can talk to about the crazy stuff that we're all trying to navigate through. And for me, what had happened is you just start picking up weight, and it was ugly. So sometime it was like mid-January, I just said, all right, enough for this. I got to do something different. So now, hey, I'm running 4 days a week. I'm doing lots of other stuff. I'm active. I connect with other people on the Apple Watch fitness app, and I'm serious about it now. You know, my problem now is like, all right, so I was telling my wife, I try to lay out my clothes at night so it can speed up things in the morning, but now I need to lay out the clothes and try them on to make sure they're actually going to fit. So, you know, hey, 15 pounds down since end of January. Still working on it, but it's.
You hear that, Keith? You hear?
There's hope. Thank you, brother Kevin.
There you go. And I plan for my meals a whole lot better also now because man, you know, when you're trying to you grab all these lunches out, you're not eating healthy, and yeah, you got to take care of yourself mentally and physically if you're going to lead with any type of intentionality, and that's what I've been focused on.
Yeah. So don't take those pants to the tailor, Keith, and letting them out. Go out there and run and connect with Kevin on that Apple Watch.
Yep. I've been taking all my stuff in.
See?
In.
What are you doing, Ernest? How are you relieving stress? You want to rollerblade? Because I'm out.
No, no, definitely not. Hey, whoa, I'm good. So, you know, for me, mental health aspect of it was extremely important for me. You know, losing my dad was tough, right? You know, my father's 85 years old, but we were extremely tight. I'm the youngest of his 6 children. And so, you know, that was my buddy. You know, that's the one person, you know, aside from my wife that I can always talk to about anything, right? And not worry about criticism or being viewed, you know, differently, right? No judgment zone with the two of them. And so for me, I started talking to a therapist, you know, a month afterwards. And I just felt like that was something that needed to continue, you know, because like Kevin, having to make these decisions, they were, you know, it was weighing on me. It was weighing on me a lot. So I continue to do it till now. And so that's one of the things that I do, talking to somebody, you know, just letting them know how I'm feeling and, you know, and what's going on and, you know, things of that nature. But physically also, you know, I got a trainer here at the Y that I pay for, you know, so I train with her 3 days a week in the mornings. And, you know, I'm here 6 a.m. training with her. And, you know, and I get home, go make breakfast for my daughter and my wife, get her off to school. You know, so spending that family time has also become one of the best things I could have ever done. So if there's anything with this pandemic that I can look at and say has been a good thing, it's the amount of family time that I'm getting. We eat dinners at the table a lot more than we used to. You know, we always did Sunday dinner at the table together. But, you know, we have taco night on Tuesday. So Taco Tuesdays every Tuesday night. We have a good time. You know, we're playing board games at home. And, you know, I talk a whole lot of trash, too. So I'm competitive. I don't care. She's 8. I give her a little spank and let her know Daddy's got to win no matter what. Oh, right. Oh, yeah. I don't let her win.
Kevin. Y'all doing big girls like that.
Oh, same thing with Monopoly. Hey, I will make a dirty deal with an 8-year-old in a minute.
I'm gonna say it like this. I made the mistake of letting mine win early, and now they beat me at everything. Boy, they were up this. Oh, I can't win it. We got a ping pong table, foosball table, and air hockey. they whooped me and everything. And that's because I was nice to them when they were young. So I'm not even mad at y'all.
There you go.
So like, both of you guys touched on this on mental health, and that's something that is bubbled up just heavily. I think across the board, everybody has that on their mind to some degree. What are you guys doing about that within your organization?
You know, conversation has come up here fairly recently. You know, one of our execs said in a call just last week, she said, you know, Kevin, we're tired and we are hurting. And she said, you know, we know there's no one particular thing you can do, but, you know, just you coming out to the branches and just spending time with people helps. You know, you just recognizing that people are going through this just helps. We just brought on 4 new board members and at the association level. We had put off trying to bring on new people last year because it was just too much other stuff going through. And as I was bringing on the new board members and all the conversations I've had with people, I told them really the same thing. I said, you know, a lot of times you come on these boards, there's a bit of an orientation period and, you know, some time to kind of get your feet up under you. I said, in this particular case, you don't have that luxury. You know, what we're looking for in our new board members is we want you to come on ready, swinging, going right at it, and understand that we have a volunteer and a staff group that's tired. And I said, I want to explain that it's not that, you know, they're bad or anything else. I don't mean tired as we would kind of say, oh, that's tired or whatever. But I said, hey, these people have been through the war. Yeah. And in the case of our volunteers, we've asked so much of them. And over the course of the last year, so many different meetings they've had to be in that was not part of the game that we asked them to when they first got involved. And the staff, you know, they've taken pay cuts. They've taken on probably double the work, if not triple in some particular cases, and they've had to do it with really no end in sight. And so for us, you know, I wish I could tell you that there's this grand plan that we have around mental health, but I think the first and most important piece around it is just recognizing the key. You know, we're telling people now that we know that you're hurting, we know that you're tired. You know, we are going to try to do everything we can to start to return salaries and do all the other stuff that goes along with it. But even in that particular case, I don't think money is going to make somebody less tired. I don't think that money is going to make them, you know, feel less stressed. So we're trying to recognize the fact that they are tired and try to provide that kind of encouragement that's necessary. You know, me and my leadership team, we try to go out and spend time at the branches with no agenda, but just to say, hey, how y'all doing? And don't expect that when you go out that you're always going to hear people say nice things either. So it's not just to go out there and hope to get our ego stroked. That's not it. We're going out there to hear, how are you all doing? So I think we have to be more intentional, you know, once again, about what we do to recognize what people are really struggling with and connect with them and help them all through it. We're all tired. But the people who are at the grassroots, who are dealing with members day in and day out, those people need every bit of support we can give them, in addition to all the normal stuff that happens through ERP and all of that stuff. But it's connecting with people and helping them.
Yeah. What's going on for you? What are you guys tackling in the mental health space?
Well, you know, again, Kevin just does a great job in teeing us up in terms of conversation. You know, we saw the same thing with our staff too, you know, both locations. And one of the things that, you know, Kevin talked about in terms of the money, you know, it definitely doesn't make things, you know, go away. But, you know, it helps, right? And so one of the things that I make sure, I spoke to my board chair about it a few months before our budget was due. And I said, listen, I'm not only going to reinstate my staff salary back to their full levels that they were in, you know, but I'm also going to pay some a little bit more. And we did that. You know, and we found a way to do that because that was important. It's a way to show them that, you know, we care and we understand that they made a major sacrifice in 2020. And so we wanted to start off 2021 with the right plan, and having those conversations really helped. You know, and I got to tell you, I forced people to take vacations, try to figure it out. listen, if it's a Friday, Monday, do it. And that's one of those things too that I started doing for myself, right? Just like, okay, if I got to take a Friday off or a Monday, I'm going to do that. The work is going to be here. It's not going to go away. I have to be my best self every day that I'm at the Y. And if I'm tired, if I'm fatigued mentally and physically, I'm no good to no one, right? So we push that big time. Letting people see your faces and talking to them and letting them know you've got their back and you're in it with them, that helps. All of that definitely helps. In terms of the mental health space, we're in preventative healthcare as a Y, right? I don't think we always think about it that way, but we started a mental wellness, we call it Y Wellness Now program. And what was happening was just not in our YMCA walls with staff. It was happening in the communities with kids, with adults and families, people losing their jobs. There are people coming here every Tuesday getting food at the Y that you would have never thought was going to happen, 13, 14 months ago. These are not folks you would have thought who would have been coming here. You take a look at our zip code, you have people, the median household income is $186,000. You would never think that these folks, right, would come to, the pandemic has just had a severe impact on everyone's life. And so for the Y to step up and do the things that we're doing is great. And so we started this Mental Wellness Now program, and we've engaged, not just this particular community, but other communities that we weren't even serving prior to the pandemic, and have partnered with, we're not experts, right? We're not experts. We have volunteers that are doctors on our board. We have a licensed child psychologist. We have family physicians that are on our board. And so they engage in this process. We're working with, child psychologists at schools, guidance counselors in some of the schools that we serve. And so we're providing resources, we're providing tools, we're having dialogue, we're doing suicide prevention, and we're working with experts that can have those conversations where the Y is that convening space. Now it's online via Zoom, right? But, there are things that we can do outdoors now. And that's how we've sort of gotten into the mental health space, and really in the preventative side of it more than anything. And we're happy that we can do that. That's what's so great about the Y too, right? We're nimble, we can pivot and do things that other organizations really can't. And we have great talent at our disposal if we use them correctly. Right. And we realize that we don't always have to be the lead dog in everything.
Right.
There's partnership, let's do that. And that's where we found we can be helpful, and we're doing it.
So across the movement, there is this shift, right? Like we're starting to see this exodus of CEOs in different YMCAs across the country. Some of them are like, look, that last 1 year was about 4 years. I'm tapping out. I'm done. And some of them, they were going to leave anyway, right? But that presents this amazing opportunity for Black men to start at least trying to inhabit these spaces. So if you could have a sideline, bro to bro, that's what y'all say, bro to bro. I don't know. If y'all can have a conversation, you can get them the cheat codes. How come we like, stay in lane? You tried it, it's fine. But if you guys can have like this sideline conversation with them and give them the cheat codes about being a Black man at such a time as this and leading organizations, because we know both of these pandemics are not going to go away with herd immunity in July, right? What would you tell them? What would be the cheat codes?
All right. I'd say this. I think number one, you got to persevere, and I don't know a Black man of this age who hasn't mastered that skill. Yeah. We've been dealing with a difficult issue here, and one of my staff members said, Kevin, how are you able to deal with this? And I said, well, I'm a Black man, and I wasn't trying to be cocky or whatever about it. I just said, for the duration of my life that I can remember from adolescent up, there's always been somebody, some group of people or whatever, especially growing up in Virginia, and Keith, you know this well, where somebody's calling you this name, somebody's thinking this about you, somebody's thinking that about you, somebody's going to say whatever, after you walk by. And if you haven't learned by this time to persevere, then I don't know how you survive getting to this age. And so I think, persevering is a key part of it. I think the other part of it, and it really came to mind in another conversation yesterday, is you just got to really be able to line up who your champions are. Whether that's at your board level, and understand who are the people who are going to always have your back no matter what. And I was thinking yesterday in a conversation with another peer that, man, my champions in the Y, the majority of them have retired now.
Oh, wow.
And I remember one of the things that Carolyn Prager said to us as we were going through MEDI now many moons ago. Carolyn said something that was such a big challenge and challenge to me. And she said, well, it's your time to lead. And I don't know if at the time when she said that, if I was ready for that. But I realized, well, it was, and I've tried to grow into that. And as I realize now that so many of the people who were my champions, and they don't all look like me, so many of those people, they're enjoying time on the golf course and doing that good life right now. And it's my time to roll up the sleeves and make sure that I can help the next person who's trying to get ready for that seat. And so, it's for me, it's you got to be able to persevere. You have to be able to have managed and mastered that skill by now. And you got to know who your champions are, whether they are retired or whether they're still in the game, and line them up, and whether they're a staff or volunteer. Because you're going to need to rely on them, especially in the CEO role, especially in this role.
Mm-hmm. I got your back, Kevin. I'm here for you. That's right.
And I'm writing all this down. Brother Ernest, what about for you?
Yeah, personal board of directors is extremely important. Not just, in the Y, but outside of the Y. I've been blessed, to have a group of people both inside and outside of the Y that I can talk to about anything from a business standpoint, professionally, who's going to guide me. There's times where I might be thinking about something completely different than what it actually is. And they're able to, level set for me and steer me in the right direction. And so I really, that's great. You got to have that. I would also say, look, be confident, not cocky. All right. There's a difference. Be confident that, you can do the job. Don't let somebody tell you that you can't. If it's your time to lead and you're ready for that next step, go after it like your hair's on fire. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do something. That's just the bottom line. And Kevin's 100% correct. As a Black man, we have been persevering our entire lives. Look, I grew up in the hood. I'm from Haiti. I had to learn how to speak English when I first came here. It's there are things that I've seen that most people haven't seen even as adults. And we've known for years, just because of our life experiences, how to fight, how to crawl out of tight situations and effectively lead. And so that's really my advice.
Yeah. We're going through some tough times right now. And what do you guys see as, what are you most hopeful for at this point?
For me, I think there's been a whole different light painted to the Y, or a whole different light directed to the Y around what we can do for communities. I think that in the past, there were many people who considered us to be just a gym and swim, but they've started to see us in a completely different light. And now I think it's our challenge to figure out how we live up to that extra shine that we're getting.
Yes.
Right.
So I'm hopeful about that. I'm hopeful also about the resilience that has been built now within our staff. I think pre-COVID, you may not have been in the Y that had the biggest budget. You may not have had this or had that. But frankly, pre-COVID, we all had a fairly cush job. You know, we came into work, you generally knew where all your revenue was coming from, and you just had to just not mess it up. But right now, we're all clawing, regardless of the size wide that you're at. We're all clawing and trying to figure out where tomorrow's revenue is coming from, because it is not guaranteed at all. But I do think there's a certain amount of resilience that's built into all of us having gone through this whole trial. And I was talking to a group of people yesterday. I think the other one that maybe goes along with that resilience is, I think there's a much deeper level of faith that's kicked in now too. You can't have gone through everything that we've gone through in the last 12 months and not come out of it elevating the importance of faith. You just can't. And I think with those things, I'm a whole lot more optimistic than most. There's some aspects of the way we were that I have concerns about when it will return or if it will return. But I think those three things together for me give me a certain degree of optimism and keep me positively running on a treadmill and staying healthy.
Right.
There's two things that I think about when you ask that question, Keith. Innovation within the why and the courageous conversations, right? You think about the things that we're having discussions on now that would not have happened pre-pandemic. Let's just be honest. Right. Because we were happy with the revenue from membership and the fee-for-service programs. Right, we weren't thinking outside the box enough. We weren't having these courageous conversations around leading change and having social impact within the communities we serve. And I'm happy that the why now has really, truly said, okay, let's go back to what we once were. When the why was first established, these were the things we were about, and we lost that. And got happy with building these beautiful new facilities and, worrying about membership and thinking about how many people we can get in these buildings so we can have revenue generated, right? And look, let me tell you this. I'm a firm believer in the business aspect of it, right? I tell staff and board members, no money, no mission. Got to understand that. But there are things that we're doing now from a fundraising standpoint that I think has elevated our organization that would not have happened prior to the pandemic. And so I am hopeful we can continue to have these courageous conversations and be more innovative and creative within the why, because we truly weren't doing that. Let's just be honest. Not enough. Some were, but as an entire movement, it was not happening.
Yeah. Oh, I feel so excited and fancy. I got to hang out with the fellas today. All my friends.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of your show, Rodrigo and Keith.
Thank you.
We get t-shirts now?
Keith.
Do we get a cool t-shirt now?
Huh?
Do we get a cool t-shirt now?
Oh, yeah. We got
the new ones are coming out. Y'all gonna get the new ones are clean. You gonna, we got you. We got you.
Right.
Just those, we ain't had that much creative thought, but the next ones.
You're going to run in those faster.
There you go. Dry fit.
We're going to take some selfies.
Oh, no, wait, no. We don't have that much money. We're still in a pandemic.
Yeah, right.
We're still in a pandemic.
Oh, man. Well, man, this has been incredible. Thank both of you guys. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your advice that not only just for today, but for years. I am so fortunate to know both of you guys. I know that you're just a text away. And when I say text, I'm talking within the next few minutes that you guys be popping back a text. I appreciate that so much, man. And we want to thank everybody for listening to Cosmetic.
We're tackling topics and telling the truth.
Hey, subscribe and listen to us weekly.
And give us a review and tell us about the things that you heard today or some other things that are on your mind.
And as always,
be dynamic.
Be phenomenal.
Be cosmetic.